Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from us here at Nerd Turd Studios.
Howdy.
It is this the last week we're recording in December? Right?
Yes.
So this is the last episode of our Star Wars month.
Star Wars month has come to a close.
And just at the front end, just know that there will be massive spoilers in this episode. We are going to be talking all about the Rise of Skywalker and its controversial, what's the word? Fan reactions? General reactions?
I think just, reactions.
Forgot to put this on before we started.
It looks good.
I didn't even realize
From
you had
the
that.
side, it looks like it just says Chris.
I didn't realize you had that being
Like from where I'm
It
looking,
says-
it just says Chris.
It says Meowie Christmas.
Hey man, how
So
many baby
cute,
gaps
dude.
did you have to go to find that shirt though? You're busting out the
Hey,
seams
just
of that
hit us
shirt,
with a
dude.
flex. Dude, look at his left bicep right now, bro. Look
Yeah.
at that. Hit a flex, dog.
Yeah, go ahead and flex real quick. We're not moving on.
Dude,
to
I
Twitch,
saw it in Twitch a little bit, bro.
Yeah, he literally
It's Twitch, dog. I saw it. It got a little something.
big flex Gene over there. Well, I am joined as always by my my dearest and lovely friend, Brown Eyes Brown Dragon.
Howdy there, fellas. Just doing a good day in the Christmas Star Wars.
Christopher Brian Shaw with that
Dude, that's
lovely
my
introduction.
whole name. People can get a lot of information about me with that.
Well, I've said it like 15 times on this podcast, so
Yeah, that's more times that someone could get out their legal pad and write that down.
hey, real quick, what's the last four of your social security number?
7927.
Is that real?
No, you think I'm an idiot, bro? I know the way technology works. What's up?
Yeah, you work with
Yeah, ridiculous.
you work with
Google
Chrome
Enterprise. You ever heard of it?
Boom. And you know, Gene, call me Gene Toms. Who
Hey, Gene.
as far as I know, single, ready to mingle, but he doesn't tell me anything anymore.
Are
He
you, ready,
doesn't.
are you ready for this? No.
Oh shoot! What?
Wow, I knew.
Are you serious?
I knew, but I was not expecting him to say.
Hold
it
on, this
the
is real?
podcast.
Dude, Christmas came early for
real.
Gene.
Yeah, Gene's kind of jolly over there.
So you
Jolly
got a
Gene.
little, you got a little honeybee in your life
He's
now,
got
huh?
a girlfriend.
What's your least favorite thing about her? All right. What's your
Hey,
favorite?
good answer.
What's your favorite thing?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll tell
Oh.
you my least favorite thing.
Oh,
He lives in Charleston. 3 hours away.
that's far.
Yeah, that's
He's got him a little long distance honey. Good thing for technology though. Imagine having a long distance relationship when you had to do
Send
dial-in
carrier
internet.
pigeons?
Yeah, you'd just write. You were pen pals basically.
Well, do you just think long distance relationships even existed at that point? I mean, I feel like the only version of long distance relationship
Is people going to war?
going to war, like, and then you just literally were just waiting, well, I hope they come back. You know, think about how stressful that would.
Well, I hope they come back.
Seriously, I mean, that's all you could do.
true.
You couldn't
Yikes.
now you can satellite, video chat as much as you want and all that good stuff. But back then it was just once a month you got a letter.
And I was like, hey man, I hope he's there. But imagine how sweet those letters. I feel like writing love letters is a lost art. I might start again.
Well, it's just kind of tough. Like, what am I going to do? Mail it to my own house to my wife?
Could that'd be sweet?
I will. Well,
She would never expect it.
She would never expect it, and she would freaking love it.
Dude, don't tell her not to listen to this episode.
She doesn't.
We got
listen.
you.
She
We
only
got you.
downloads. She doesn't
She's
listen.
only a downloader, not a listener.
Yeah, man. But I mean, I guess we're going to get into it. The only things we have on the docket for today, we're getting into a in-depth Latrine Screen review of the Rise of Skywalker. From what I can tell, we already have vastly different opinions, and then we're also doing the Nerd Turd Gift Exchange.
Whoop, 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 whoop. You guys, I got
Giving each
y'all
other
some
gifts.
bangers.
These are going to be the first Christmas presents that I'm getting this season. These are going to be the only Christmas presents that I receive
Oh
this
my
year.
god!
I got a Walmart gift card
Boo.
earlier.
Well, I played so at my work we did what is it? Secret Santa?
Yeah.
Is the one where you get a present for somebody. Dirty Santa's the
you
one
get
where you
one as well.
Well, Dirty Santa's the one where you steal presents, right?
Yeah, that's White Elephant, Dirty Santa. Yeah.
It's got it's the same game, but it's got 9 different names.
Yes.
Anyway, we did Secret Santa at work, but I wasn't there the day that we did the official gift exchange.
So you didn't get anything?
Well, I brought my gift a day early because I didn't want anyone to be like, "Oh yeah, cool, Kevin."
Yeah, Kevin's a cheapo.
Cool, Kevin. But no, so I hope my gift is waiting on me when I get to the office tomorrow.
What if you didn't have anything?
I'd be pretty upset. I would demand for my $25 back. I'd be throwing a fit.
Yeah,
for $25.
my work had a gift exchange, and I got a gift card because the guy literally, this is what he told me. He said, I was too embarrassed to walk in Walmart and buy you some Star Wars Legos. So here,
Is that what you asked for?
no, I mean you don't ask for anything. You just kind of
At my
I
work,
guess you could.
at my work, we make like a list. And
Yeah, no,
post it
this was
outside
just
our-
like I have a couple Funko Pops on my desk, so I'm guessing he thinks like he's like way cooler than me too though, so like I can get it, but also it's like thanks for the gift card, man. I'm probably just gonna turn that into a PSVR because I'm
Dang,
about
how
to
much is
win
that
my
gift card for?
$20, but I'm about to win my fantasy league, which is an easy 200.
Yeah, Gene, call me Gene Chalmers. As we speak, is in we're
Yeah,
in
I'm
a
a grudge
dynasty
match.
football league
Yeah,
together right now,
grudge
and
match.
Gene's in the
Yeah,
championship.
Gene's in the championship.
We'll
Me
see what
and Gene
happens, man.
both are going
See what
for
happens.
some chips today.
He is he's playing in the guys he's playing with. His team is popping off right now, so he's gonna have to. He's got some ground to make
It's gonna have
up.
to be a Christmas miracle.
Hey,
But
don't say
you never
never,
know.
dog.
You never know.
Never say never.
It's true.
Yep. But as of right now, I can safely say it doesn't look great. But I'm hoping for the best for you.
Thank you.
He's so subtle. He's so subtle.
All right. Well, we're gonna spend a lot of time here, so I just figured we might as well go ahead and dive in.
Da, 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 da.
All right, so I'm going to stop you there, and then let's get into the Latrine Screen Rise of Skywalker, directed by Abrams, right?
JJ, my pal
JJ.
JJ.
Who wants to go first here?
I can go first. Okay, here's my thoughts.
Oh well, let's explain how a
I was gonna
Latrine
say,
Screen works.
I
first.
feel like we're gonna probably talk. We're gonna give our thoughts, and we're probably gonna all go back and forth.
Yeah, I
and
feel
around
like
a
there's
lot
not going to
after
be a
we all
ton of
talk.
like going first.
So-
It's probably just going to be a lot of back and forth. So what a latrine screen is it's our attempt to give you guys a review and tell you whether or not we think you should go see it or we think you shouldn't go see it. Similar to the Rotten Tomatoes scoring meter, all three of us have to see it, and then we will give it a 7 point, like a point in the point decimal system score out of 10.
Not
and
the
then
Dewey
we'll get
Decimal System.
not the Dewey Decimal System, and then we'll give an average, and that will determine if our
is it out of 10 or is it out of 100?
it's out of 10.
It's out of 10. You know what I honestly don't remember that do you maybe hopefully one of you guys does is the criteria for Nerd Deterred versus Nerd Preferred.
Over 80% is nerd preferred, and then under 50% is nerd deterred.
Well, so
There you
right
go.
now you're
Easy.
contradicting yourself because
Easy.
you're going 80%. You're not using a decimal system. I'm looking at a thing right
8
now
out of
where it
10.
says at least 75%.
We really know what we're doing here.
Oh, you know what? Psych. I'm reading that wrong. So at least 75% of us have to see it, but that was when we had 4 people.
Yeah, so we definitely changed that.
At least
to all three
75% of us saw it here.
That is true. All three of us have to see it, but technically, if you
But it
count-
is right. 8 it's 8 is nerd preferred, and then below 5 is deterred.
Nerd deterred. So I was correct the whole time.
So all three of us have to see it. If we count Maria, that could be 75%, but
Hey,
she also saw it.
Gene,
So
switch to
100%
me.
of us saw it. Hold on, bro.
Switch
I'm
to me, bro.
talking. I'm trying to tell the people. All right, there you go.
I gotta give him the gun, dude. You see my hat, dude? I'm
That is
basically
funny.
Mandy, bro. Got space guns.
What were you actually saying, Gene? Are you done?
That it would qualify for a latrine screen regardless because all three of us saw it. But if we went by the 75% out of 4, Maria also saw it, who is in the room and has
Also
lots
seen
of thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, she's been hollering.
Yeah, she's over here.
She's been
squirming.
hollering since she walked in the front door.
That is true. When she gets passionate, she talks really loud.
She was
We
also
love Maria.
she was
I can't
also
really
doing
blame
this
her
a
there,
lot as she was making all of her points.
That is true.
She was in her feels after we saw it. So maybe we'll let her pop on and give some of them. Give some of her thoughts.
I don't know. I don't know if she's emotionally ready for that. I feel like she's gonna start busting out some stereo speakers. But let's get into it. Chris, start us off here.
Back to me. Okay. So, from what you guys know, and I've said again, and I will rehash because this is kind of the basis for my thoughts on this movie, is I do not think that this last 3 movies should have been a continuation of the Skywalker saga. I think that because of that, they had immense pressure to please a fan base, and if this was just a story of the Skywalker children and not a continuation of Anakin's story, which I think is perfect, I think that they would have done these movies a lot better, and people wouldn't have been as uptight, and some maybe decisions wouldn't have been made that shouldn't have been made. That being said, I liked The Rise of Skywalker, and here's why I liked it. I liked The Last Jedi as a movie. I thought it was a really good movie. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, but I just fundamentally cannot get behind what they did to Luke. Like that, I know that's what everyone says, and that's whatever. It's good storytelling, though. But for me, for him to come into a story that's been around for 40 years and change one of the main protagonists to be completely fundamentally opposite to everything he has because he's been jaded by one experience with his nephew.
Yeah,
that's hard for me.
I will say though,
That's
the redeeming thing there though is at least he had an arc, right? So by the time The Last Jedi ended, I do see, like, I get why, you know, the first time you see Luke Skywalker in 40 years and he's throwing his lightsaber jokingly off a cliff, and they also kind of take a shot at that in this movie in The Rise of Skywalker when Force Ghost Luke Skywalker catches the lightsaber, and you know they kind of, you know, almost like erase that wrong.
No, they 100% do, because he even says, I was completely wrong. I never should have been here. Like, Luke completely, like, goes against Last Jedi, which I personally think is fine. I know that it's not what you do in series of movies to completely, like, just erase one, basically. But I think that was something that had to be done to give some justice to Luke's character, honestly. Because I just think that is, like, as much as people are mad because he erased it, basically what Rian Johnson did was erase Luke's character. I mean, that he completely changed it.
So when Luke Skywalker ends in The Last Jedi, he has, I mean, as far as the galaxy is concerned, he is, I mean, I know it was a Force Ghost projection or whatever.
I mean,
but as far as the galaxy is concerned, he was the spark of hope that the rest of the galaxy needed, because he's the one that stood up against the First Order.
I mean, they all stood up against Force Order. He's just the reason that they had a little more time.
Right, but that, I mean, if they didn't have a little bit more time,
if they didn't do a lot of things, you could say that. Like, that he was just one thing that happened in the whole catalyst of what happened in the Last Jedi.
Right, but I'm saying, like, his mindset on everything. Like, I get he started out jaded, but he ended The Last Jedi having, like, basically come full circle on that.
Right, but
because Yoda basically told him to. That was the thing.
Yeah, but whole thing being said, still, that whole movie, you can't see Luke as the same person you saw, this reckless,
I'm with you there,
fun-loving, completely positive in the face of Darth Vader, the biggest evil of the world, turn Darth Vader back. You know, like, I'm
with you there. I just I don't buy that, like, they tried to throw Luke Skywalker's character out the window. But you can get back to the right.
That being said, I think I like that. I like that they quote unquote fixed Luke in a very much completely erased everything Episode 8 did, which I don't necessarily know is the right way to do it, but I feel fine with what they fixed with Luke. Another thing that I enjoy is the fact that Rey was trained by Leia. I enjoy the fact that Leia actually expounded upon her powers. Now, I wish we would have had some more actual detail of what happened. Now, sucks that we're never really going to see that unless they cast someone else to be like a young Leia and have like a Leia Jedi movie training Rey. I think that could be really cool. But the reason I think that is really awesome is because the two masters, and Rey even says it at the end of the movie, her two masters are Leia and Luke, right? And I still believe that Anakin is the chosen one. He is the key to everything, which why I think the end, I know we are going to disagree on this, but I think the way they killed Palpatine, while it may have been too fast, both Leia and Luke's lightsabers together, that's Anakin, right? Like, it's the power of Leia and Luke, which in a sense is Anakin. Like, he was the combination of both of them. So I like the way they work that in, because even though Anakin didn't really have any screen time, I believe that Anakin is the chosen one.
Well, it's not you believe, that's
Star
Wars lore.
Yeah,
I mean,
some people will
Star
say,
Wars
like, oh, was it really
dedicated
Anakin or was it Luke? You know, like, people will say that. Like, they say he's, you know, highest midichlorian count, but they only said those in the prequels. They didn't say those in the original trilogies or the sequel trilogies. So I like the way that everything ended, and I think more than anything, there's a lot of fan service, but I am satisfied. I think that it was what they had to do to save a story that, if you replace yourself and think outside of just the sequels, they tied a bow on the whole story. Now, just the sequels, terrible storytelling.
See, that's where I disagree. Like, I hear everyone say that they had to bring back Palpatine, and I just don't buy that.
I didn't say that.
Well, okay. Well, so you didn't say that, but you said they did what they had to do.
I think with where they were at,
they brought back a fan service villain with no explanation outside of the fact that he they
was
basically
being
just
tying the strings. No, I think it's bad storytelling. I think they did what they had to do as far as making everyone feel as good as possible about character. Like that's the thing, is I don't want them to change what I fundamentally know about a character. So for instance, we talked about the Mandalorian. In the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, everyone's like, that's actually Yoda's baby. If they went back and said that Yoda, the chief of the Jedi Council that follows all the rules to a T, didn't follow the rules and had a love interest, I would have a problem with that, because that's retroactively changing the character of someone that has been established for years.
Yeah, but stuff like that's easy to work around, because specifically, I mean, I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here, but specifically in that, the thing is, you get to create your rules, right? They set the precedent, right? Like I don't get to decide how, specifically right there, I don't get to decide how Yoda's species reproduces. Their species might just have an offspring. That might just be part of it, And, and the same thing with, like, they made the choice to introduce Palpatine as, in my opinion, just total fan service because they didn't know what else to do. But if you look at where Episode 8 ended, and really they spent almost half of this movie just basically deleting Episode 8, like that, so they just completely didn't even have to address it. But where Episode 8 left off, Kylo was like buried in hatred at Luke Skywalker. The Resistance had just escaped, and then Kylo had just risen to power in the First Order after defeating Snoke, right? Like that's where it ended. And then Episode 9 takes place, and then none of that matters. None of that matters anymore. Kylo doesn't even I don't even know if he even has a thought about Luke Skywalker in this movie anymore. Like it's not even like part of his character arc anymore. And they just spend in my opinion, the first 30 minutes is a disaster of storytelling.
Well, I think that this movie, if you were to isolate it from the other 9 movies, I think is a bad movie. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you look at it as the 9th movie in a 9-movie series, I think it works. And I think it's literally the only choice he had.
But how does it work? So if Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one,
I think exactly because at the end, Rey is told, you have the power of all the Jedis, and the chief power of all the Jedis, chosen one, X crossing of Luke and Leia's saber, that defeats Palpatine. Now, I do think one thing that is interesting too, that I think,
but that means Anakin didn't balance the Force. Rey did. That means she had the power of all the Jedis living inside him, not Anakin Skywalker.
Right, but I think it happens down the line.
I have thoughts about that, but we'll keep going.
I also think it's interesting too that Palpatine said, if you kill me, you'll get all the power of the Sith. So does that mean that Rey has all the power of the Jedi and all the power of the Sith
I think they did take a second there to... so I wanted to watch this a second time, because at first viewing, for me specifically,
you were pretty hot.
It was honestly because I was just going back and forth. Like the scenes were cutting so aggressively.
By pretty hot, you mean he said at the theater Thursday night that this might have been his least favorite of all of the Star Wars movies. He said that the
Phantom Menace might be better. He
literally said that this was his least favorite of all of the Star Wars movies after we saw it on Thursday.
Because here's why I'll explain that. Because if you take Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and what's episode 3 called?
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. That's a better story arc than episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, I 100%
It's completely jaded. In episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, makes episodes 7 and 8 worse.
Yes, I agree with that.
And so,
but like I said at the beginning, I think that these 3 movies should not have been connected to the Skywalker saga.
No.
That story was complete.
I honestly do just kind of wish that, because I think it just limits them. I think it limits creativity when everything has to be tied to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
everything
100%.
has to be tied to, the villain you have to bring back is Emperor Palpatine. I think that shoots themselves in the foot.
They can't create because they have to play in a world that's been created by someone else 20 years ago.
I'm glad you liked it. So honestly, when I first watched it though, after it all ended, obviously I was like, this was, I think my first words were, that was garbage. Like I've come a little bit off of that. And I'll get into more specifics of things that I thought were good about it here in a minute. But
I say we shoot to Gene, because Gene's probably good intermediary of us, I'd assume. I'd assume Gene probably hits a little bit.
Let me say this and I'll throw it to Gene. I just, literally, the reason I wanted to watch it again is because the first 30 to 45 minutes of that movie, I was so lost in what was going on, because it was literally like, okay, so nothing in episode 8 mattered. There was more story development in the Star Wars like text rising screen than there was in the first 45 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
At least that explained like, all right, Palpatine's alive. You just got to deal with that now. Kylo is going after the, what do they call the Sith thing? The Wayfinder?
The Wayfinder, which also in Extended Universe is called a holocron.
Wow.
So they changed the name. I don't know why, because it's pretty like well known of a holocron. I don't know why.
It was honestly just one of those things. They were just like, well, you know, we don't want to validate anything in the extended universe.
Well, definitely fan service in EU too, probably, but also because they were just, it's just a, more than anything, it was probably just a marketing scheme of the movie itself to appeal to a wider audience, because people who didn't know anything about the EU wouldn't know
like
what that
Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, so they just changed it to Sorcerer's Stone. It's just like people aren't going to know that if they haven't read the EU. So in order to make it more appealing to people, they make it not something that you would have to know more about Star Wars lore to understand. They just make it something generic that people are like, oh, that's what it is.
And I would assume that Disney just wants to have just total and absolute control over their own story, and so they probably just honestly didn't want to validate anything in the extended universe. I mean, seriously, I mean, and so, but yeah, the first 45 minutes, it was basically just like scene after scene of like, don't ask questions about why they're here. Yeah. Like specifically, here was an example when they fall into the like the quicksand snake pit, whatever, and after, you know, before Rey force heals the whatever that big snake is, they're literally sitting there talking about like, how are we going to get out of here? That person died in here. He was never able to escape. And then they heal the big, you know, quicksand basilisk, and then it just cuts to a scene and they're out.
Yeah,
and there's just like no like, okay, that just happened. They just figured it out.
I think it's ironic. I don't know if they did this because this is almost making fun of himself, but I think it's ironic that JJ included the scene of oh my gosh, who of them like light speed skipping or whatever, light speed hopping, because that's what the first half of the movie was. It was like you were light speed hopping.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was like going super fast and you just appear somewhere. So it's funny because it seems like he almost is like making fun of himself, but like he knew this is the way it's going to be, because that was completely new to Star Wars. But that's the way it felt, is that scene, the way they felt is the way this felt.
Yeah, Gene, give me some of your thoughts. You've been quiet.
Well, I've been typing them up, so I've been trying to thinking about them as you guys have been like going back and forth. So obviously I'm still a little new to the Star Wars saga.
Dude, you're deep.
But
You've been
not anymore, bro. You know more than I do at this point.
Overall, I will say that I liked it. I'll save the rating for the end when we all rate it. I liked it. I saw it twice, so I saw it again on Friday. There's lots of things that I enjoyed about it. There's lots of things that I didn't really understand. I definitely do think it was a lot of just an attempt at fan service and not trying to step on anyone's toes who is really deep into Star Wars. While also appealing to people who don't know as much about Star Wars, and so it was just a lot all at the same time.
Yeah,
which I think lends itself to feeling like you were light speed skipping. But you could definitely tell that he was afraid to make people mad. He was afraid to do things that were going to push the boundaries of what could have happened in the universe and the galaxy, because he was afraid of making people who were really invested in the 40-50 year span now of Star Wars, like he was afraid to make people upset. You thought for literally approximately 30 seconds that Rey had killed Chewie, and then they immediately went back on it and said, "No, there's a second transport. He's good. He's still alive." Like,
dude,
we're not going to kill Chewie. Yeah, no, that hurt. Like that hurt like, really badly in the theaters when we first all saw that happen.
Honestly,
especially
though,
because
that was a great.
That
scene.
was the first. That was an amazing scene because it was literally the first like clue into like, oh, Rey is. I mean, obviously, if you probably knew and you had inklings, but it was the first like explicit like exposure to the fact that Rey had the dark side. Like,
do I get credit for calling that? Because I said that she was Palpatine's kid, but she's granddaughter. So do I get credit in that?
Yeah, we'll give you credit. Sure. But yeah, it was literally 30 seconds.
Yeah,
and then immediately they cut to the cruiser of them saying that one of the transport got destroyed. Oh, there was a second one, and it brought back a very valuable prisoner. And so it's just like immediately you knew Chewie wasn't dead after you thought he had just died.
And not only that, but like I think this movie needed someone like Chewie to die. Like maybe not Chewie because that would have been like so early. But I mean,
definitely more emotion.
But they killed off Han Solo, right? I mean, so like, what does Chewie exist for right now? I mean, he's just a character that people love, but like his lifelong best friend or whatever. I mean, not lifelong, but you get it. Like He's died.
I will
And so
say
I think
even
that was
more-
a perfect character, honestly, to Rey to accidentally kill as she unintentionally,
No, I thought it was.
Let's
I thought it was
brushed
brilliant.
up against
the dark
I
side of the
hated
Force.
that Chewbacca, that I thought Chewbacca was dead for those 30 seconds,
but it was
like,
great.
I was like, no
Well,
one
and
saw
so-
that coming, and
but
then he's
there was
immediately, "Nah,
3
just kidding."
scenes in which you felt emotionally connected to this movie, and that 30 seconds was one of them. The second, which is one of the things I love, and I don't want to derail it too much, was when Han Solo comes back and is talking to Ben.
Beautiful.
That was,
scene.
and honestly, that's one of my best. That's one of my
agree.
favorite scenes in this whole trilogy.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's one of the best
And-
scenes in the trailer. That was great.
And and some people loved it and some people hate it. But when Ben used his Force healing powers because he's now on the light side of the Force to bring back Rey, and then they shared a kiss, like that was an emotionally connecting moment. And then that was it. Those were the only 3 scenes that emotionally you cared about.
Yep. No, I agree. So I mean, I think so. There's definitely that. Like there was both sides of it. So he was afraid to push the boundaries, afraid to step on people's toes. But then it was just like, I mean, all that you've heard about, especially I work closer with Maria, who was really big on
Reylo, baby.
Reylo, the shipping Reylo. Is that they just like toyed around with this for all 3 movies in this trilogy. They have toyed around with the romantic tension between Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, and Rey, and they resolve it for 2 minutes.
If
Like
that.
I was gonna say, even if that, like they literally like they finally come to the fact that like, okay, we're together, we're both where we want to be. They allude to it all through the entire trilogy, and then you get one scene where Rey and Ben are face to face, they kiss, and
Lips
then
to
Ben
lips.
dies.
Well, that's not that's
You know?
not the only love interest that they botched on that too, because when they were falling into the quicksand and everyone thought that they were about to die, Finn looks over at Rey and says, "I need to tell you something,"
Mhm.
and you assume in that moment
Finn
he's
has
gonna,
3 love tropes.
yeah,
Yeah,
3.
there's a lot.
And I'm
There's
just
a
like,
lot.
What is
So-
happening?
yeah.
But yeah, so that, and it's just like they felt the need to still again touch on the Finn and Rey, which everyone knew wasn't going to happen
Yeah.
after they didn't allow it to happen in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Initially, but obviously he kept like going after her, and then the whole Rose and Finn thing was just still very
Dude, they did
interesting
Rose
to me.
kind of dirty. I'm not
Like,
gonna lie.
I mean, I get that she thought that she wasn't going to make it at the end of The Last Jedi, and so, but she had the whole scene and the line that she had in that movie, which was really great. It was a great line,
Great line.
basically talking about like, we don't want to be remembered or something for destroying what we hate, but fighting for what we love or something like that. And she said that
Yeah.
to Finn,
Yeah,
but when she
great
thought she
line.
was going to die, then she kissed him, and then the only interaction between them basically in the entire movie
It's
is
like a high
he
five.
pats her on the shoulder as he
Yeah.
like, as they're about to leave or go do something, and it's just like, why even explore that if you're not gonna
Yeah.
at least do something to resolve it?
Wait, who was the third love?
That
Love it.
girl from the tribe on.
Oh yeah,
So like they had
what
definitely
the
had
Death Star
connection
was.
too, right? I mean, they came and it was like
yeah, I forgot
going
about
in
her.
together. They were talking, kind of going back and forth.
Like
I can't
But then
remember
they
her
don't do
name,
anything
but-
with it.
I definitely think if we have an offshoot movie, mark this down. I think if we have a spinoff of this, it's going to be her. The girl that I can't remember her name. I think it'll be her. I think it's time.
Okay.
Well, no, so they did allude to that, and I like it, and I think it will be a spinoff because I think that was cool because she and Lando were at the end. They were sitting together.
Yeah, they have a really
and
cool.
Lando asked where she
vibe.
was
I love the
from,
story.
and she said she didn't know because she had obviously been a stormtrooper and had been taken as a child. And so he very
She's got a
clearly that
story to
was
tell.
definitely like alluding to something's probably going to spin off
yeah.
with that. But that was a cool scene. I enjoyed that scene. I thought that was cool. They ended the saga and then stuff like that. One thing that I didn't like, so overall, we talked about Finn and his his love triangle by
Yeah.
himself with 3 different people. I didn't really like what they. I did and I did not. I thought Finn was annoying throughout the whole movie. I think Finn has been a little bit annoying throughout the entire trilogy, because he's always chasing Rey. He's always running and yelling and screaming, and that's basically all he does. But then I thought it was kind of silly to me because I enjoyed that they delved a little bit into the fact that you didn't have to be a Star Wars like royalty bloodline kind of per se to be able to be in tune with the Force.
Yeah.
They started alluding to that. I mean, obviously they did a little bit in the beginning, because he had a feeling,
Yeah.
and kind of didn't want to go through with his stormtrooper like duties, which caused him to leave and be part of the resistance. But they definitely, I thought it was interesting, so I kind of liked it and I kind of didn't, that they decided to expound upon it more, and he clearly throughout the course of this movie grew in his like awareness of the force within him and the force around him. And I thought it was really cool that they did that, because it kind of just like solidifies that you don't have to be a Skywalker or a Palpatine or someone like royal to be able to be a Jedi or a Sith or be in tune with the force and figure out what it is and figure out maybe how to use it later. But they did it in the movie that literally is ending the saga. So, like, what are they going to do with it now? What was the point of, like, having him do that to end the saga, and now they're not going to have an outlet for it, like, because the saga is over. So what was the point of him becoming more aware of the Force just for literally the
And this,
saga
again, kind of ties into, like, I get it was made by two different directors, but episode 8 is still, you know, love it or hate it, it's still canon source material that you can't ignore at this point. And so, you know, they kind of even foreshadowed it a little bit. And I didn't really think about this at the time, but I mean, he did go toe-to-toe with Kylo in a lightsaber fight. I mean, he was an injured Kylo, but still in a lightsaber duel in episode 7. And so, like, whatever. If you want to make him force sensitive, and that kind of was like your initial foreshadowing into that, I'm cool with that. But then in episode 8, the whole time he's just on a casino planet freeing space horses.
That was the worst.
I mean, yeah, that's just universally recognized. That was a total waste of time. It didn't do anything for the plot. Like, they spent way too much time there. Like, I get it, but that still happened. And so you essentially had episode 8 as this guy who, for all intents and purposes, is essentially useless. And then that guy, come episode 9, is second in command. He's force sensitive now. And, you know, he's one of the top dogs in charge. And you're like, what? Why? This guy, up until this point...
because he was friends with Rey and Poe.
Yeah, and up until that point, he had literally done nothing. And, you know, outside of run and scream. And he had played a role, a role player role in some key missions, I guess. But, I mean, he didn't do anything significant. But now all of a sudden, it's like, you know... But you had Poe, who was this established... Like, he was alluded to be, like, the best pilot in the galaxy. And then all of a sudden, like... him and Poe are kind of like on the same playing field now. Yeah. Just because this guy was a stormtrooper, I guess. But I don't know. So that was, like, I get it. Like, from a fan service standpoint, a lot of Star Wars fans did not like episode 8. But, like, this isn't like a cartoon or an anime episode. Like, this is all like a canonical story. Yeah. So you can't just spend your whole movie undoing, like, the precedent that was set in episode 8. Yeah. And that, to me, was, and maybe their hands were tied. Like, maybe they tried to experiment a way around, like, what else can we do besides bringing Palpatine back as a obvious, like, Hail Mary move. Like, maybe they tried to experiment things and just didn't find anything that worked. But I don't know. Like, that was one of the things that was initially rubbing the wrong way. It was either episode 8 was completely ignored, or the things that I think were actually, like, key things were just completely undid, almost in, like, a comical way. You know?
I will say also, though, with episode 8, and I don't know if y'all thought this at the end of episode 8, but I remember sitting in the theater after the movie, and it almost felt like a finale movie. Like, there wasn't anything really left to do besides just, like,
you just had a clear divide, right? So you had Kylo, who was essentially, you know, you had Rey and Kylo in the throne room scene, which was a really dope lightsaber fight.
Yeah, it was the best one.
And then they took down Snoke, and then that was the moment of, like, who's gonna fold here? Is Rey gonna join Kylo in ruling the galaxy with the First Order in a better way?
Also, tie into 9 real quick. I love the whole idea of, like, you didn't take my hand, and then Rey says, I would have taken Ben's hand. Like, I wanted to take Ben's
that was
hand.
Good. That was one of those, like, cool. Well, that was one of those moments where there was just romantic tension to do nothing with it later in the movie. It was just like, it was perfect. Like,
look at Parker knowing about romantic tension. That boyfriend, that boyfriend over there, that boyfriend.
Yeah, dude, Gene's life is a romantic tension now.
All right, I got some more stuff.
Yeah, hit us with it.
So,
Jinx!
Wow,
dude, we jinx a lot.
Yeah,
I'll try to hit this fairly quickly. You guys mentioned Leia. I understand in the scheme and the plot of this movie how it makes sense for her, and correct me if I'm wrong, how it makes sense for her, because Chris, you said it, and it makes more sense now that I think about it that way. But it kind of felt just like very jarring and unexpected that all of a sudden, like, you find out that Leia was actually a Jedi.
And an actual Jedi.
Just out of
Actually
out of
trained
nowhere in this movie, it's just all of a sudden like, oh yeah, by the way, Leia was training with Luke to like hone her Jedi skills. And it's just like, that's never been anywhere else in any of the Star Wars saga. You obviously you knew that she had the Force and she was strong with the Force because
she could fly through space.
Yeah, because she could fly through space. No one else did that.
And they talked about her.
But I mean, obviously, yeah, she had the Force, and as soon as like, and you knew that she had the Force prior to her knowing who she was, because she just didn't know what it was and know how to figure it out. But once she figured out that she was a Skywalker, she was Luke's brother or Luke's sister. Luke was her brother. They were both from Anakin. It made sense. But all of a sudden, it's just like, oh yeah, she was actually also training to be a Jedi, but then she decided not to, and that's it.
Yeah.
But and I understand that it makes sense in the course of this movie. I definitely think that they had to wrap up her storyline and her arc altogether fairly quickly because of Carrie Fisher passing away, which I think is a lot of what happened there, which I understand too. But it felt rushed. It felt forced. No pun intended.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Bang.
It just also was kind of out of nowhere that she decided and knew what she had to do, and her sacrifice to becoming a Force ghost was just like, I'm just going to go lay down in this bed and give up to connect with Ben. And which I get it in the course of the movie, I understand it, but it was just kind of like, that's not anywhere close to the way that anyone else. I mean, I guess Yoda kind of did it, so it makes more sense.
Well, it's not even that. When she gave up, when she used the last of her energy to do that, to speak to Ben in that moment, all she said was Ben.
Yeah, why didn't she Force ghost there like Luke did? Like, why didn't she just like appear for a second? Like, it was weird that she just like whispered to him.
Or say anything significant, or like, that. You didn't need to. I mean, because I get it. So here was actually one of the things. I think how they handled Carrie Fisher is one of the pros of this movie, because that, not necessarily of like that I think it was like greatly portrayed on the screen, but it's like an impossible thing to deal with. Like the only footage they had was basically trash footage from episode 8. Like that's the only footage they had of her. She did no shooting for the Rise of Skywalker. And then, add on to the, to add on to that, this is also the last movie where you also have to tie up her character. And so you have very limited footage to actually tie up her character. And this is one of the most significant characters in Star Wars. And I actually think in that regard, they did a pretty good job. I just don't get, like, if that's the route you want to take, like, okay, she's going to basically, like, essentially sacrifice herself to speak to Ben and also save Rey's life in that moment. At least let her say, like,
something cool,
like Ben, I love
you. Like I'm always gonna love you,
Ben,
or
your father and I are proud of you.
You're always welcome back, or like no one's mad. Just something along those lines, other than just Ben.
Yeah, and I understand it too. Like as I start to think about it, I can understand it more and more, because definitely part of I think it was, she probably didn't Force ghost until he gave himself up for Rey, because her sacrifice wasn't complete until that moment, because her giving up the last of her life force was her attempt to reach out to Ben, because a lot of what, obviously Kylo killed Han, but then he did. I think the reason that it makes sense, that you can make sense of it, is because Kylo didn't think that he could ever be Ben again, because he didn't think that his mother wanted to take him back because of what had happened. And so I think that moment for her and that moment for him was the turning point, because her reaching out with the last of her life force to connect with him was her letting him know that wasn't true. But it wasn't complete until his turn wasn't complete until he gave himself back up for Rey, necessarily. I mean, you can make sense of it like that. But so I think that was interesting. I know it was rushed, and so I didn't love it, but I get it. Just something that I did like, before I talk about a couple of other things that I don't really care about, and then I'll let you get into your stuff. Babu Frick was cool.
Yeah,
he was funny. He was awesome. A comedic relief, and I thought he was dope. So I'm gonna give a shout out, because I told a new friend about our podcast. His name is William. He lives in Charleston, so he was asking me what I thought about Babu Frick, because that was his favorite character in the movie, and so we should do
Charleston friends now.
I do have Charleston friends. Well, he's also 11. So
Oh.
he was telling me that Babu Frick was his favorite character. So we need to do a Babu Frick versus Baby Yoda poll this week.
Oh,
so
dude, that
I
would
told
be
him that, you
awesome.
know, how we see it, how we feel about that. So if you could like both of them, that would be great, because I don't know if I'll be able to choose, because I love both of them
They're
for
both
different
awesome.
reasons. But Babu Frick was really, really funny. I also hate that Palpatine came back for 5 minutes. I don't hate that he came back, because I don't think it was a stretch. And so we disagree a little bit there, because I definitely think that it was alluded to basically throughout all of the saga that Palpatine always toyed with the immortality thing and figured it out. I didn't love how they explained it, with the fact that it wasn't him actually still being alive outside of like dark science that the Sith knew about, that basically was just keeping him alive. I don't hate that he was pulling the strings the whole time. I think that makes sense.
That's kind of cool.
I don't love that he created Snoke and all of those things, but again, that's just because I don't really love the dark science aspect of it as much as like he figured out how to stay alive in and of himself and his power. I do agree that it was a lot of build up for nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, it was nothing. That he is. I mean, he's the most powerful dark side of the Force entity that we know of in the galaxy throughout this whole saga. Obviously, extended stuff, and I don't know what classifies as canon and not, but different characters like could rank higher than him in power level. But he's the strongest Force on the dark side that we know the whole time, and he comes back to full power. You're led to believe.
Yeah.
And they get smoked.
Not led to believe. They say it.
For 5 minutes. Like, you know, so little time, and then he just gets destroyed.
Well, not even that. Let's take a look at those 5 minutes, right? So he basically just, I don't even know, like Force absorbs, Rey and Ben at this point, and he rises to power. The first thing he does is shoot lightning into the sky, and it makes hundreds of spaceships start falling into, which it's in space, so why are they falling?
It's a little EMP, dog.
But, I guess they're on a planet, so whatever, I'll give it to him.
But yeah, so I understand him coming back, and I actually think it was cool that he rose back to full power, because it makes sense. I don't love that he died in so little time, because, the whole time is obviously all of that comes to fruition, and that comes full circle when you find out that Rey is a Palpatine, and he has been pulling the strings behind the scenes the whole time to get her into power, because he believes she's going to take his spot and be the Empress, because she has his blood and has Palpatine. He finds out about the dyad, and obviously because he has technically then at that point failed both of his subjects. In obviously Vader failed. Kylo failed, because obviously Kylo takes the turn back to Ben. Rey fails as his granddaughter to be Palpatine, and so he basically, I thought it was a cool twist that he did become the big bad in the end by saying, well, if no one else is going to do it, I've discovered a way to just do it myself. So, sometimes the best way to do things is to do it yourself. Thought that was really cool, and then he just gets smoked by a double lightsaber Rey. So I didn't love that, but I liked the whole concept. I didn't like the execution. And I like the whole idea of, this is what I'll end on, and then I'll throw it to you. I like the whole idea of Rey could be the answer to the whole saga. I think it makes sense. Again, I think the execution of this trilogy, and specifically the last, this movie was rushed, and it could have been expounded upon a little bit more. But I think it makes sense that Rey could be the answer, that essentially she is the balance that the Force always finds, because the Force always finds balance. You always have the light and the dark side warring against each other. In the sense of Palpatine basically, says that if she kills him, she will have all of the Sith living inside of her, and she will take on the spirit of all of the Sith, which is all of the evil, all of the dark side of the Force, because they all live in him. But then Luke, and then all of them at the end of the movie come back to her aid of the Jedi side and the light side, and tell her that all of the Jedi live in her. And so upon her killing Palpatine with the combination of Luke and Leia's lightsabers, which is, depending on what you think, Anakin, and the key to all of that. Essentially, in essence, you could say that Rey takes on both the light side and the dark side of the Force in its totality, and so therefore, at the end of the movie, she becomes the balance that the Force always finds.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that makes sense. It wrapped up super quick, but when you think about it, it's that could make sense. So I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's how my mind made sense of it.
I would say something that's interesting about just the whole idea of the balance of the Force. I like when Anakin said to Rey, when she is laying there almost dead, and all the Jedi talked to her, he said, "Bring balance to the Force like I did." So the Force was balanced at one point, right? And so that means that it can become unbalanced. So
Yeah.
I think that it might just be a perpetual state of like a almost like a peace years kind of thing, like the force is balanced for a while, and then something comes up that brings it unbalanced. So maybe it's just going to keep going on.
Well, and it's
that
also,
whole
I think
idea-
that's also perspective, because I think like how the Jedi view balance is the destruction of the Sith.
yeah.
But I think like if you were just an impartial third party in that, you would say, well, that doesn't make sense. That's not balance. That's just
and
everything's in favor of
dark
you.
side would say complete control to do how they think the world is supposed to be.
Right. So, no. And so here's my thing is I don't have an issue with anything they did. It's all about just like how they presented it. I just think it was just in general just bad storytelling. So like even if you want to make Leia a Jedi, dope. Make her the most powerful Jedi in the world for all I care. I don't care. But like at least expound upon it. Like don't just like throw me this 3-minute scene or less than that and just like, okay, that's a reality now, and just keep moving on like it didn't happen, just to basically just like introduce these elements just to make it convenient of like, well, no one else is going to train Luke, so let's make Leia do it. And so now we've got to make her a Jedi, so let's put, you know, a 1-minute scene of her finishing her Jedi training with Luke, and, you know, then we're all good, you know? And or even Palpatine. I don't hate that Palpatine came back, but, you know, like, you know, all of a sudden I'm just supposed to believe like, okay, he came back through, you know, whatever, the dark arts, you know, but where did he get this armada of planet destroying
who
Star
built them for
Destroyers?
him?
Where did they get that technology? Like where, you know, he basically put the power of the Death Star on every single one of those Star Destroyers and then used it to destroy one planet.
Yeah.
And like, why? If you had that, then why did you need anybody? Like, why didn't you just start destroying every planet?
Yeah.
Like, why? You know what I mean? Or not only that, why did you want to do that? Why do you want to rule a universe with nobody in it? Like, so there's just things like that of like, okay, that's just reality now, and you just have to accept it. I just think that's just bad storytelling. Like, they literally could have taken, however they want to justify Palpatine coming to power, they could have literally just explained it in 1 minute. Like, literally one conversation between two people explaining how he came to power, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I think I personally do have a gripe because I think that Rey being the one that kills Palpatine and bringing, you know, quote unquote balance to the Force, I do think that like that throws just a huge wrench that you have to explain away in the whole reason Anakin existed.
Yeah.
Because if Palpatine didn't die and that didn't destroy the Sith, then what balance did he bring? He didn't bring any, you know, outside of the fact that he had. And I think I get what you're saying, but I even think that's a stretch of like, if he was the chosen one and, you know, like, why would, I don't know. I mean, her holding Luke and Leia's lightsaber to destroy Palpatine, I get where you can like draw that connection of like, you know, that is Anakin, but in reality, it's just, I mean, that's Rey holding 2 lightsabers, you know, and it's not like, I don't know. I think it would have been really cool. Like, if you're going to start bringing back people from the dead for no reason, I think it would have been really cool to have an extended fight, and then you have Anakin Skywalker come back to defeat
Just a
Palpatine.
Royal Rumble.
I mean, if that's what you're going to do, you're going to start bringing back people from the dead. Let Anakin be the chosen one. Let that come to fruition through Rey and Kylo that you're now bringing back over to the light.
It would be like Lord of the Rings Return of the King. That made me really mad when it's just like, oh yeah, we got ghosts.
And then they use their Force power to, you know, bring Anakin back essentially, and, you know, he be the one that fulfills his prophecy again.
Yeah.
And actually destroying the Sith. But because that would have made sense, that would have fit with all 9 movies. You know, like Anakin would still be the chosen one. You would have Rey you would have her full character arc now, even though I don't know why they waited 3 movies just to say that she was Palpatine's granddaughter. You know, like, why are you waiting to the last movie in an entire saga for us to still be finding out information about your main protagonist? You know, like,
that's because it wasn't planned, other than like that was not what Rian Johnson thought was going to happen when he made the 8th movie.
Well, I don't think it's what anyone thought was that, and that's my whole issue is like when they started, I think each one of these movies had full creative independence. And I think like when they made The Force Awakens, I think that they had no idea how they wanted that series to end.
Yeah, which is so, I don't understand why
Like,
they did that besides like some kind of like money grab or something, as far as like he didn't want to direct whatever it is. It doesn't make sense. You don't write stories that way.
Well, but it's not even that. It's not like just because they're the directors, like they don't own the Star Wars franchise, right? Like like literally anyone could have said this is going to be the story arc. You know, however you want to do it. Luke Skywalker comes back. He turns into a Super Saiyan and fights Frieza, and that's the big bad. Like, however you want to do it, that's fine. Like, but you need to have a story arc that makes sense other than like, well, we're going to use a movie and a half to introduce this one guy as a bad person. Then we're going to leave the second movie in a trilogy to seem like now the bad person is Kylo and Rey, and you're building up to that fight. And then you basically just ignore that. And then it takes 10 minutes in the, in the third movie in this trilogy for them to be like, just kidding, we love each other, you're just bad, but if you started calling yourself Ben, I would love you forever. And you just immediately abandon all these things that you're building up, and it's like, I don't know, it literally just felt like a tug of war between two film producers of like, no, I'm gonna have it my way. And then you had J.J. Abrams, who just got to make the last movie, and so he was just like, you know what, forget episode 8, we're just gonna pretend like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah,
Yep.
So I guess scores is the only thing
we'll
left,
have to
right?
give our scores, our ratings.
I can go first. So like I said, I think if you were to isolate this movie, bad movie. If you were to isolate this series, the last 3 movies, bad series. I think this movie, in light of all 9 other movies, good movie. Right? So that is my whole shtick on everything. I think that these last 3 movies shouldn't have happened. I think that they make no sense when you look at them. But if you look at just 9 with everything else that's happened, I think, for me, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, I am pleased. So, that being said, I am going to give this movie a 7.3.
I can live with that.
Because like I said, it's not a great, like, if you, like my wife has not seen all the Star Wars movies. If she goes and sees this movie, she's going to think it's the stupidest thing in the world. Because it's not a great movie, per se, but
Right.
I don't think it's more than just a movie. It is the end of a saga.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that, okay. And I won't spend too much time here because, I don't want us to go too far over on time. But I do agree with that. But I think you could have not seen a single Avengers movie. And then you could have gone and seen Avengers Endgame, and you still would have had a good time. You might not have picked up everything. You might not have had the full emotional connection of Tony Stark. But, like, at the end of the day, like, and yeah, that movie has full of plot holes. But, like, at the end of the day, it's still a well-thought-out, well-produced movie. It's got really dope action scenes. Like, you still would have had a good time. I think if you didn't care at all about Star Wars and watched this movie, I think for most of it, you'd be like, what? Like you would have no idea what's happening. And like,
I agree with that.
Because they basically used one sentence that he says in what is it, Revenge of the Sith, where he talks about, the dark side of the Force. He can, when he talks about dark plagues the wise, and how he figured out how to conquer death. They basically used that conversation to justify basically the whole existence of the movie. And if you haven't seen that, you'd be like, what is this? So I don't know.
What's your rating?
3.5.
Nice.
Wow.
And that is with the, like, one thing is the only reason I gave it that much is because I think that Ben Solo, Adam Driver, Kylo Ren, whatever you want to talk about, I think he's the best character in all 9 Star Wars.
Like the best, like, actor character, or the
Best
best developed character?
Yes.
Wow.
I think he has the best story arc. I think he, I'm gonna be honest. I think the whole kiss between him and Rey, I think that's a little corny, but like his whole redemption story, I think is really cool. I think he did a really great job, and just from an acting standpoint of showing how torn he was the entire time, even when it's assumed that he's gone to the full dark side of the Force, that he's still torn. And drawn to the light side. Yeah, you feel that he feels he can't come back.
I will say, I think that if we would have had more actual FaceTime with Vader, it would have been the same way.
Well, yeah, but we just
don't. Like,
yeah,
they just didn't do that. Like, I think what I imagine Kylo is very similar to the way I imagine Vader was, like, behind the scenes.
And they even allude to that, the whole redemption, right? But they built up Vader this whole, and I won't spend too much time here, but they spent 3 movies to build Vader up as this, like, super bad, like the worst of the worst, evil, the villain of villains, and then you find out that he has more character than him. Then you find out he's Luke's father, and all and all that. So yeah, I don't know. And so even in the third movie, you get a lot of character development with him. But I think just Kylo's dope. And so for that reason alone, I'm giving it a 3.5.
Well, first off, I wish we would have gotten more FaceTime with Vader as well, but he wore a mask.
Dude, we got some though.
We got some
We
there
did
at the end.
end, bro.
All right, 7.5. I'll give it the highest of everybody. So being the least versed in Star Wars, I enjoyed it. I saw it twice in 2 days. I probably wouldn't see it again in theaters, but
I need to see it again. Maybe I'll
I can make
care about
sense
it
of
more if I
most
see it
of it. Even though I don't necessarily love all of it, I can make sense
I'll
of
definitely
it.
see it again because it has lightsabers in it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'll go. 7.5.
So here we go.
So-
The Nerd Turd score, the official Nerd Turd score of Rise of Skywalker, 6.1. Which means it is neither Nerd Preferred or Nerd Deterred. It's
Yeah, go see it if you want to.
Go see it if you want to. If you've seen all the Star Wars, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be good.
If you really love the new trilogy, you won't like this movie at all. But for people that I feel like garter all of Star Wars in equal playing field and just love the whole story, I think it's fine.
Interesting. The Rotten Tomato score has it as a 58, so we're kind of right there.
Ooh,
in
we're
line with
real
it.
close. Cool.
And so that's the thing is if I wouldn't say don't see it, if you like Star Wars, it's still a good time. I mean, you still get to see a lot of characters. I do think they did a good job with a lot of the characters.
They did great with Lando.
100% of my
was awesome.
qualms are just strictly, it just seems like they just didn't want to think about how to tie up the story. And so they were just like, you know what, forget it. Let's just get Palpatine in here and let's just make everyone happy. Let's give every character their moment and, just call it a night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I get the reasoning there. That just left a lot to be desired from a story standpoint, and I don't know. So, but no, it's a good time. You'll enjoy it. I mean, the lightsaber fight between Kylo and Rey is dope.
The movie is beautiful. I mean, it's a
beautiful movie.
beautiful movie, cool action scenes. I mean,
and all of our criticisms, I mean, we're not movie critics, right? I mean, all of our criticisms are strictly out of the point we like
We're
nerd
nerds.
stuff, and we all are a fan of the Star Wars franchise, and there was just a lot of stuff that probably each of us individually wanted to see that got replaced with, in my opinion, just fan service, and so.
but you know what? I'm cool with that, right? And so that's I think where
and
we
so
kinda differ,
I've
which
seen
is
a lot
good.
of people. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that just they wouldn't change a thing. That everything they got, they loved it. So just because I gave it a 3.5, you might still love it.
Which is, I think that what's cool about us three too, and what's cool with you listeners is hopefully you guys will relate to one of us, right? That's the goal here. Is we never want to present the same thing on everything because then why would you listen to us? We don't argue. We don't talk about anything. We're nerds. You're all nerds. And that's Star Wars month.
Enough of that nonsense. We got a gift exchange to get into.
It's Christmas, the time of the
Gift
year.
exchange.
Christmas.
All right, Santa Chris, get us going here.
Santa Chris, first gift will be Kevin's gifts for myself and Gene.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good
This
time.
one is
Oh, it's on the back of the tag. My wife wrapped these.
Chris, Gene.
Did y'all wrap them yourselves or?
Oh, better believe I wrapped them myself.
Really?
No, I didn't.
Wow, dude.
Ooh, baby.
Gene, did your girlfriend wrap them?
Yes, she did.
Dude.
God, dude, look at him. He's
Look at
big.
him, his
He's just big
girlfriend.
flexing over here now.
Gene, bro, you want to go? You want to open first, dog?
Yeah.
All right. For you podcast listeners, we're going to try to be very vivid so your imagination can imagine what's happening because this is definitely a more visual segment. So whoever is not opening will be narrating the opening.
All right, I'm gonna open it. So I'm gonna show you this fun packaging.
Oh, dude, silver bow.
I'm gonna try not to just completely destroy this microphone while I'm trying to
Guess
open
what's in
this.
it real quick.
So I have literally no idea.
Wait, I might need y'all to open these at the same time, and you'll understand why. Do it.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, hold on. I got you.
Yeah. All right, Kev, give us some narration, bro.
All right.
You got to narrate for both of us since we're opening them at the same time.
All right. Well, so when I was looking for your gifts, I had to think what did both of y'all dig? All right. Y'all are both super into nerd stuff, but
Tell
y'all
me
are
about
also
the
into
nerds
some.
stuff. I'm
y'all
looking at the back of this, and
y'all
it says polyester.
Y'all are into
Yes.
y'all are into some high fashion.
Oh, nice.
Dude, sock game,
Nice.
bro.
Yeah.
Nice. You got. So I got here. I'll show mine.
Dude, this is
So-
sweet.
12 Days of Socks, Marvel Edition, for me, and then
And then your
Brown Eyes.
boy,
What'd you get?
12 Days of Socks, Star Wars edition.
This is awesome.
Dude, there's some Ewok socks,
This is cool.
bro.
This is really cool.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, wow. I kind of wanted it for
All of
myself.
the
But there was
different
only
options?
2.
There was only 2, one of each.
And so at the time when I bought these, you were just getting into Star Wars and I was like, all right, well this works out because I don't know if he's going to like this or not.
Wow,
So
dude, these damn
I know
socks
I
are
know he
dope.
liked
Red
liked
Skull?
Avengers.
Yeah.
So
Dude, this is
Socket?
sweet. Thank you, Kev.
Yeah, dude, these are cool.
There's some 3PO
These are
socks.
awesome. Wow.
yeah, so the reason once one of those got open, they're the same shape box. So I assume y'all would have figured that y'all got the same thing. So
I
there would have been
definitely
no
thought we
suspense.
got the exact same thing, but I'm proud of you, Kev, that it isn't the exact
I did too,
same thing.
honestly, to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah. you
All right,
guys are
who's
well.
next? My gifts or Gene's gifts? Oh, we said Gene's gifts, didn't we?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, Gene's
Okay.
gift to Kevin.
Oh baby. Oh baby.
So there, you guys each
Look
have.
at a couple.
this,
You guys
dude.
each have
Oh,
2.
God, this thing's heavy,
Yeah,
bro.
you guys each have 2. So
I have 2.
yeah, you guys each have 2. So I'll narrate. I kind of like put a bunch of things together for you guys to kind of make one like just different gifts. So open them in whatever order you would like to.
In whatever order.
There's no particular order for any of it. So
Okay.
I definitely got you guys all like a couple of things to kind of like work together.
I'm gonna start with the bag. Look at this tissue paper, bro.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
nice.
It was professionally
That's
wrapped,
good.
man.
Spare
This-
no expense.
I will
Profession-
say this paper
Look at
is
this.
thick. Dog. Like,
Professionally-
this paper
professionally
is like
wrapped, man.
nice paper.
Look at this,
Professionally wrapped.
Bro,
so
that plaid.
so
isn't
this
that
is, and you
called
like
something?
you like coffee. Welcome to the Iron Throne,
Oh
Kevin.
my
God,
gosh,
bro.
bro.
Welcome to
mean,
the Iron
I'll show
Throne.
this to the camera.
That can kill
The
somebody.
one thing that won't be expressed in this is how heavy this thing is.
Welcome to the Iron Throne.
This thing's like 8 pounds.
That's
It's like a tanker.
It's like a Magnum flashlight.
yeah. So you haven't.
It's got a
that was-
velvet bottom. That thing
we,
is
we were talking
nice.
about when we were talking about Game of Thrones and how you haven't seen it. I figured it was the perfect maybe stepping
is
stone
true.
for
This
you to
isn't
get into
nice.
it. So now that you have something to
It's
enjoy,
got swords all over it.
enjoy your
Swords.
coffee
And a
God,
dragoon.
dog, I wish I had more and I would do the transfer. That thing is
for
sick,
all of
Gene.
that. You know. So there you go.
All right.
Um,
God, wow, bro. That
and
thing's
then actually
nuts.
open that one last.
This one?
Yeah, open that one last.
Okay.
So open your.
I got an elongated cylinder too.
Oh, baby.
Um,
Oh, baby.
So
Ooh,
this
let's
is
see.
also I really enjoy these. So I actually have one of these myself.
Oh,
um,
I see some HP.
I have one of these myself, and it's pretty cool.
Harry Potter in the cut.
So
Oh,
it's
ice
a
cube
it's a
mold.
Hogwarts. Yeah, it's Hogwarts ice mold.
Oh, dude, is that the one that
Yeah,
we
those-
sent on
yeah.
Instagram?
So I got like a bunch of those. And so
that
that's a
is
Hogwarts
sick.
Castle ice mold. So
Dude,
there's 2 of them
check
in. There's
that
2 of them eaten in
out,
each
bro.
of
It's a
them.
mold. I don't know if you can tell from the camera. That is a ice mold of the Hogwarts castle.
Yeah, so
That
there's,
is
there's 2 of them.
dope,
So
dude.
you have 2 of them. So you can make one for you and Andrea, or one for you and
boy.
Kevin.
Boy,
I have one as well.
that is
so-
sick. Look at that.
That's
thing.
like detailed as well.
That
That's
is,
not just like
dude.
the shape of
Shit,
the castle.
Hey,
That's
bro,
like,
we've been there.
Yeah, we have been
We've
there.
been there.
dog, dude.
So we'll throw back
I'm
to our
hype,
our
dude. Gene, those
Hogwarts
are
episode.
dope gifts,
So
bro.
you
Do
still
you
have
want
one
me
more.
to
You
open
still have
my
one
2 and
more.
open
Oh,
these
yeah,
2
yeah, yeah.
together?
Yeah, do that. Do
Okay.
that. So now,
Let me
Chris,
open my
that'll
2
be
and then
great.
we'll open
Yeah.
those 2 together.
So Chris, you can open yours. So
ASMR. I'm opening up my gift for Gene.
so this actually works out better than I thought because of Kevin's gift.
Baby.
For you, it kind of goes in line. So Chris is actually the one who told me about the
Death Star
Harry
ice
Potter-
mold.
the Harry Potter like ice mold things that I ended up getting for myself and a couple of other people. So I didn't want to give that to Chris.
Dude.
So I got Chris one of his own. So Chris has a Death Star ice mold.
That is dope.
And so Chris got that. Yeah. So you guys each got ice molds.
Dope.
And then
Number
this
2
one
for Gene.
honestly, so the gift that you guys are gonna open together at the end is really good, I think, at least. This one specifically for Chris, because I have had 10 years of Chris asking all kinds of hypothetical situations. Dude, what if this happened? So we got him a book. What if? An
Gene,
entire book.
I
full
have
of-
this book on my Audible wish list. This exact book is on
full of
my Audible wish list right now.
serious scientific answers to awkward, absurd, hypothetical questions and situations.
The first one I came to, what if you strap C4 to a boomerang? Could this be an effective weapon, or would it be as stupid as it sounds?
This was a perfect gift for Chris as an inside joke too, because honestly, for as long as I have known Chris, he has been coming up with the most ridiculous, unexplainable, and never going to happen types of situations. And I saw that book when I was like looking for some other gifts for you guys, and I was like, I have to get this book.
That's good. That is like the perfect like party book.
And
like,
so yeah, okay. So you guys need to open this one together. This is for each of you guys. So you need to open both of these together. So these are these are pretty sweet.
I gotta figure out how to open it.
Yeah, figure out how to get these open. I don't really know. I mean, I tell you, they're professionally wrapped.
Knox, bro.
Professionally wrapped. I'm telling you guys.
Okay, hold on. We're almost there.
I believe in you guys. Be somewhat gentle, but
you're gonna be.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, hold on.
Bro, you need some help?
Chris is having trouble with this professional wrapping.
Yeah.
Over
Goodness gracious, girlfriend.
I won't spoil it for you, but this is kind of sick.
What is this?
Professional,
black magic.
Professionally wrapped.
It's like a Chinese finger trap.
Oh, I see something. Oh.
Look at this.
So they're Star Wars chopsticks, and the one thing that I haven't done is pulled out the tabs so you guys can turn them on.
Oh, cool. Dude, you're a Sith Lord. Dude, look at these things.
These things are dope. Forever refer to me as Lord Vader.
Oh my god, this is a dope gift, bro.
Yeah. So if you guys like them, or you want to do one and one of each, or you guys want to trade colors, feel free to. But yeah, I saw those too, and I was like, these are so sweet. I wish I had these, but I never
can't
eat.
Stop looking at them.
You guys won't take these to the next sushi restaurant you guys go to. Dude, and like,
you know how people like go to like bars and take like their own pool stick?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go.
I should do that.
I'm gonna go to like Japanese restaurants and take my own chopsticks.
No, ma'am, I don't need your chopsticks.
I got my own.
I brought my own.
All right.
So yeah.
So now it's Brown Eyes gifts.
God, dog.
Let's go Kevinito first. From Brown Eyes.
Kevin's is a large gift.
It's not as large as it seems.
This is dope wrapping paper, by the way.
Show the wrapping paper. Star Wars.
I don't know if they'll be able to tell, but this is Star Wars wrapping paper.
That is pretty cool.
Oh, baby. We got here. Amazon Prime, dude. It's a gift from Amazon Prime.
It's actually not, but that's a box we have.
It's just a box. It's in a box.
It's in a box. I think Kevin will like this.
I'll try not to show this box so I don't dox you or whatever. What's it called when you give away someone's address? All right, hold on.
There it is.
Oh,
he's close.
Oh,
I will say I did not wrap it with the paper. Sam did that, but I did wrap the box.
Oh my!
What is it? I need to see it.
Dude, look at that.
The best bet I ever lost. Cade 6.
Oh, look at that Ace of Spades.
The Ace of Spades.
I will say the frame doesn't fit perfectly, so if you want to get it reframed, you can.
Bro, that looks awesome.
But isn't that sweet? It's literally like a tattoo thing. Yeah, it's sweet.
Figure that out. Yeah, that is super
I saw it
awesome.
and I was like, dude, I might need that.
That's
for
literally
myself.
like a memorial tattoo.
That is cool.
That looks like something I'm gonna have on my lower back in a few years.
Oh my gosh.
Dude,
I don't know if y'all can tell. I don't know if anyone here is Destiny fans, but that is
a sweet gift.
Oh man, that's the
best bet I ever lost.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
look at that Ace of Spades, dude. That thing's tough.
That's a good gift.
All right, Gene.
All right, I'm gonna open it. So
I'm not gonna lie. I think
see
Kevin's
this transfer.
gift is perfect. But Gene's gift might be the best gift I've ever gotten someone.
Where did you find this?
To Gene
Etsy,
from
dude. I'm an Etsy
from
king.
Brown Eyes. So let's see what
this one's
is.
good. I will say this
awesome.
one might be a little less good considering Gene is now off the market.
Oh.
You'll get what I'm saying afterwards.
I don't even want to
This might be a little less good. This is good. Get ready. I'm not gonna lie. This is amazing.
Oh, what is this about to be? What is this about to be?
Oh God.
Look at the back. Look at the back.
Dude, let me see this, dog. Dude, the suspense is killing me, bro.
It's amazing.
Gene, I need to see this, dog.
How do I get? Oh my god!
It's amazing.
The timing of this is just so.
I know, that's what
funny.
I'm saying. That's why it's not.
Okay, it says even after all this time, always.
Which clearly is what Snape loving Lily.
And you guys, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but it says Gene and Emma.
Let me see this.
And it's got their house scarves on. Parker's wearing a Hufflepuff scarf. Emma Watson is wearing a
Where on earth did you get
Gryffindor scarf, and they're sitting in a boat romantically overlooking Hogwarts. That is a tough gift, bro.
That is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life.
After all this time.
Did you get this from Etsy as well?
Always. Yes, I think so.
Jeez.
That's a tough gift, bro.
Oh my!
That thing is not.
I
Did you show it to the camera already?
I tried.
Oh, man.
Like I said, it might have lost a little bit of thunder after.
I don't know
No,
if this is gonna be
it
able
makes
to,
it
like-
better.
I don't know if you guys could see this.
So you even get to pick hair selections, like hairstyles, and I tried to get as close as possible you and Emma Watson's hairstyle.
Dang, bro.
This is cool. This is a good gift.
God
After all
almighty,
this
baby.
time, always. But you know what?
Wow.
It's times like this, guys. This is why we do it.
Well, we're actually not
We're
done giving
nerds.
gifts yet.
Ooh.
We have
That's
one
true.
more.
We have one more. That's true. I forgot.
Also, Taylor, I'm sorry.
We have one more to give.
Ooh.
A lot of stuff happens behind the scenes,
That is true.
and a lot of it happens from not us. And
Yep.
Probably more of it than actually does. Besides that,
100% more.
the like legitimate recording of this the literal recording of this podcast
and so
is not us.
we all got a gift for our dearest friend Maria.
Maria. Started as an unheard nerd and now is an integral part of the podcast.
Now is this her? She's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try to do this without destroying everything.
All right, sounds good. I don't know if they could hear that. He said trying to do this.
Bro, let her come
Yeah.
open it on the
Come.
shot.
You wanna
Let her come open it on
okay.
cam.
Here,
So
come sit here.
yeah, take Kevin's spot.
Come sit at Phasma's feet.
There's no
Okay.
no underlying meanings
Thanks,
in
guys.
Maria replacing Kevin, but
Whoa. Is this the handing off?
Handing off the lightsaber.
In Kevin's house. That would be the most demeaning way.
Disrespect.
Maria came into Kevin's house and took over.
Yeah. What is it?
What
What
is
is
it?
Oh
it?
my gosh.
Oh.
It says always on the naughty list.
Always on the It's amazing. Vader.
Tomorrow to work.
Always on the naughty list.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
Also, y'all listeners are very lucky that I did not talk on this podcast this week.
She literally was cringing the entire time.
I have a lot to say.
Well,
She's got a
there,
lot to say.
yeah, there it is.
So
All the nerd turds have received their gifts.
Well,
It's been fun.
I guess we should wrap this up, huh?
I suppose.
Star Wars month has come to a close.
Star Wars month has come to a close. Christmas is soon.
This is episode's dropping Monday. That'll be
Yes.
2 days before Christmas, the 23rd. So from all of us here at Nerd Turd, have yourself a safe
merry
holiday.
one.
Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and do all those things. And on that note, cue the music, baby.
Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nerd Turd Podcast, a podcast devoted to consuming and digesting all things nerd and expelling it out for the world to hear. If you enjoyed listening, you can support us by following and subscribing on all social media platforms at Nerd Turd Pod and leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen. We hope we've given you something to digest in your nerd life. From all of us here at Nerd Turd, keep it nerd, and we'll see you soon.